No?
Possibly.
Does he do that? I think he does that at one point.
A little bit, yeah.
He does, yeah. I just need to lose a bit more hair. And I think I'm a pretty good dupe for Michael Keaton.
Well done, you.
Hello and welcome to the first review of 2015's new releases in the Popcorn Club. What have we chosen as our very first 2015 film?
It is Birdman.
So what's it about?
Michael Keaton is playing a former superhero actor who is attempting to do something of substance, essentially, and is writing, directing and starring in his own adaptation of a Raymond Chandler play on Broadway. And it chronicles the rehearsals and previews and period of the film or of the play.
It's a film that's full of knowing sort of moments and decisions that have been made in the film. So, for example, the cast are all playing versions of themselves not that far removed.
Well, I don't know if they all
characters.
I know that
there are certain.
I don't know if the role was either specifically written for Michael Keaton or it was heavily tailored to him after he got the part. But yeah, it's.
But also Ed Norton is playing a guy who's
the only other
hugely method, and Ed Norton is also known for being.
Yeah.
They're like parodies of themselves.
Aside from those two, I don't think any of the other characters specifically have.
The film's very much talking about an artist's integrity and what's important to you and what makes you truly great and your legacy, whilst at the same time also being hugely commercial and having an all-star cast name-dropping all the time. I think it does that on purpose.
Absolutely. Well, I think it's really scattershot in the way that it does throw out all these kind of ideas and concepts and themes. At one point, like praising Michael Keaton's character for being brave and bold and kind of going for it, and then in the next scene knocking him down for it, and in so many different ways. And then the same with attacking kind of Hollywood culture versus theatre culture, but kind of showing them all in some way at certain times to be just vacuous and pretentious. And also the score itself, the kind of scattershot jazz-like nature of it kind of just helps sort of create this aura of just action and just vibrance, just what the hell is going on. I think it does an excellent job of kind of putting you behind the scenes of the theatre and just throwing all these kind of ideas and concepts at you just to see kind of what sticks.
For a film that's got so much going on in terms of ideas and themes that it's exploring, I felt that it did a really good job of not making you feel overwhelmed as an audience member. It was really easy to go with it, which when you sit back and look at all the stuff that it was touching on, actually on paper you'd probably think, oh Christ, how are you going to fit all that in there and not completely lose everybody? But actually it's really well done. In terms of the score, I really loved it. I thought it was a really brilliant score, just the drumming and it just constantly keeps the thing ticking over, and I think coupled with the way it was shot, just it's supposedly one long continuous take or meant to look like that.
You'd never be able to.
Yeah.
They did an insane amount of work to actually pull that off.
You won't find any joins in there, will you?
For the first sort of 10 or 15 minutes, I was almost like trying to look for them, and I just had to like divorce myself and separate myself from that. It would be a huge achievement in itself to build the set, and you'd have the leeway to move walls out when things are coming through, but to actually have the physical limitations of a small Broadway theatre to do that in, it just makes it even more impressive.
It's a really amazing kind of feat of cinematography, and it just adds so much to the pace of the film and the style and the tension in the film.
It just helps put you in that moment in that theatre with these people for the duration of it, and just amplifies all the emotions that they're kind of feeling throughout it.
Who did you like the best? Gold star goes to...
Well, I mean, I think you kind of have to give it to Michael Keaton for just being the centrepiece of this production in a lot of ways, but also I think Ed Norton as well.
I love Ed Norton.
Seeing the two of them bounce off each other. In a way, when they're rehearsing, Ed Norton's trying to almost convince Michael Keaton of his skills, and they're running the lines, and he knows
he's coaxing a better performance.
He knows the lines, and the sort of the back and forth that comes out from them, and it's kind of almost like that's the sort of thing that I guess happens all the time within the theatre, but it's kind of stuff that you never kind of get to see that sort of process happen. You never get to see two people kind of, I guess, at the top of their game, just going at it, and the sheer fact as well that it's being done all in one take. You're not, there are no scenes, it's not being cut together, you're just seeing it as it happens as well.
Yeah.
I think it's really great because there was so much going on in the film, and it was even like one or two cases where stuff just got thrown in there almost for like no reason and then almost just disappeared again. The moment where Naomi Watts and Andrea Riseborough's character just have that little moment in the dressing room where they start kissing.
Oh, yeah.
And it kind of just happens out of nowhere and then isn't mentioned again, and it's just evident of just all the different things the film's throwing at you. Similarly
with Ed Norton and Emma Stone, they have their little moment on the balcony, which.
Well, I think the stuff. I guess the stuff between Ed Norton and Emma Stone is she's kind of there just to, in a way, just point out how ridiculous he is. Because I say when he's just to make the point of his sort of on stage versus off stage persona.
How did you feel about the actual superhero stuff? So like when all the special effects start coming in about him flying around and all of that kind of stuff and what's going on in his brain. I
just felt it was just another way of using this past character with the Birdman to almost just visualise the internal conflict or just help emphasise the pressure and the strain that he's under, really trying to actually do something kind of almost of value or of substance. And whenever he's sort of failing or feeling the pressure in a lot of ways, then that Birdman voice comes in. A lot of those pressures weren't evident, or he never felt those as Birdman. Like at the beginning of the film when he's levitating or when he trashes his dressing room, it's definitely no one else is witnessing it. But then the moment when he starts flying around and people are seeing and he's sort of reacting to people and you're kind of a little bit unsure, I think, as it's happening, how to take it. But then there's a nice little moment when he arrives back at the theatre and he walks in the front door having landed, and then 2 seconds later the taxi driver has to run in.
Yeah, and I really like that the contrast between the realism of the rest of the film and then suddenly you get this huge, fantastical, like, you know, Marvel-esque stuff come in. As the audience, you're there going, what's going on? But it's a really lovely contrast, I think, and it works really, really well.
So the last thing to get to would be the ending itself. The rest of the film was fantastic. But I really had quite a few issues with the ending. For the most part, I kind of had a sense of what the film's trying to say about each and all of these things. But when it came to the ending, well, it did feel like, for a start, it felt like there were multiple endings to the film. When he shoots himself in the head on stage, that whole scene following that in the hospital room, I wasn't quite sure how to take it, or whether it was another figment of his imagination, whether it was real. When Emma Stone comes back in, and the last shot on her face is she looks out and kind of almost smiles.
Yeah.
If we take it that the reality is that he's jumped and has killed himself, it makes absolutely no sense for her to be happy about this looking out the window. I guess in his mind, he's flown off again to pastures new or whatever, which is fantastic for him. But we've already established earlier on in the film that that's not real. So in reality, if he has thrown himself out the window, then he's effectively killed himself, unless it's still a figment of his imagination. But then we haven't seen any of the other characters view his psychosis.
So I think it's really cleverly done to leave it open to interpretation in the way that it is. I don't think it is clear cut. My personal interpretation is that it was all in his mind. Like what we were watching as the whole film is severe mental illness playing out, and that he was really struggling with, and obviously couldn't cope anymore, and the only way he was going to be happy was by jumping out the window. So the daughter's character, she's not like grinning, she just has like a half smile on her face. She has an understanding of what it is to have mental and issues because she's gone through some things herself. I think she understands his problems better than probably anyone else in the film. Looks out the window, sees that he's done that. I don't think she's happy about it. I think the half smile, I interpreted that as, okay, he obviously couldn't cope, he's gone to a better place, he wasn't going to be happy here.
But it just felt like to me like the more natural place to end it was on stage with the gunshot, and then you can still take take
That's
from that.
very black and white, that ending.
No, because the very next scene proved that if they ended it there, you could assume that he shot himself in the head and killed himself. But they telegraphed it where they talked about someone who tried to shoot himself in the head and didn't kill themselves.
Okay.
Kind of at the beginning of the film. So kind of even if you were to leave it and fade to black kind of on the stage at that point when he shot himself, you don't know whether he has or hasn't killed himself.
It could have been interpreted very easily more black and white if you'd cut it there, whereas this is very, very much, you can't miss the ambiguity, if you see what I mean.
It just felt out of place. I'm not saying I wanted everything answered in a way that I need to understand.
What do you mean it contradicted?
What the scene was saying felt at odds with what the rest of the film was saying. How he's viewed through his psychosis and how he views it and how no one else sees it.
So popcorns then?
I really liked it. I would give it 9 popcorns.
Yeah, I think I'd give it 9 popcorns too. Okay. I really liked it. Really well brought to life by everyone involved. And yeah, something I haven't seen before.
There'll be a few other films this year that will do what Birdman's done in both the sort of creative, technical plot and everything, really.
Next we're going to see Foxcatcher with Steve Carell and Channing Tatum in their lesser spotted dramatic roles. Yeah, interesting to see how that plays out. I don't really know much about it. So is it about catching foxes?
Yes.
Okay. Have you seen Birdman? How did you feel about it? It's got a lot of good press, but are you in agreement? What do you think about the ending? What's your interpretation? It'd be good to hear some of that. You can also subscribe, because, who doesn't want to do that? You can follow us on Facebook and on Twitter, and we will see you next week for Foxcatcher. Boy! Foxcatcher.